So today we are looking at a Jund deck that tries to basically abuse the 3-mana Cascade spells, Violent Outburst and Demonic Dread. So in Modern, some decks use these spells to cascade into very powerful cards that have a very low converted mana cost. So they'll cascade into Living End, or Crashing Footfalls, or Ancestral Vision. So these cards, of course, they're 3 mana and they have Cascade. So when you cast them, you reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card that costs less, and you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. So these spells, Violent Outburst and Demonic Dread, are legal in Pauper, but unfortunately we don't have very many powerful spells to cascade into. I've tried some decks that try to cascade into Exhume, which can be decent, but not amazing. So here I have my latest attempt at that strategy, where the spell I'm cascading into is Arcane Denial. So we know whenever we cast Demonic Dread or Violent Outburst, we are guaranteed to cascade into this card. Kind of a strange counter spell. So it's 2 mana for an instant. It says counter target spell. Its controller may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep, and you draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So basically what we do is we cast either Demonic Dread or Violent Outburst. We cascade into Arcane Denial. Then we cast Arcane Denial and counter our own Violent Outburst or Demonic Dread, which will then cause us to draw 3 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So essentially that is the play, is that with this combo, whenever we cast Demonic Dread or Violent Outburst, we get to draw 3 cards. So drawing 3 cards for 3 mana is pretty strong. So that is essentially the combo play in our deck. That's sort of our engine to try and gain some card advantage. And then the rest of the deck is basically just threats and removal in Jund colors to back up our Cascade play. Since we can't play any spells with mana costs less than 3, we are playing some split cards, because their converted mana cost is the total of each half of the card, which is pretty cool. So first up, we have Dead and Gone. So the dead half of this card is 1 red mana for an instant that says it deals 2 damage to target creature. And then the gone half is 3 mana for an instant that says return target creature you don't control to its owner's hand. So a little bit of removal and bounce. Then next up, we have Fire and Ice, which is a very solid card. So the fire side is 2 mana for an instant. It deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. And the ice side is blue, 2 mana for an instant, tap target permanent, draw a card. So both of these sides are very good. We are primarily a Jund deck, but we do play these thriving lands which can tap for blue mana if you need them to. So we can cast the ice side of this card. Then finally, in terms of removal, we have Snuff Out. So it's 4 mana for an instant. It says destroy target non-black creature. It can't be regenerated. But if you control a swamp, you may pay 4 life rather than pay Snuff Out's mana cost. So this can be a free removal spell, which we can cast in the early game, but its converted mana cost is greater than 2, so we don't cascade into it. Okay, so then we have 2 copies of Llanowar Visionary, just for a bit of card draw. And then we're rocking Sarulf's Packmate, which Jund Cascade decks also play. So it's 4 mana for a 3/3. It says when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. But it also has Foretell for 2. So during your turn, you may pay 2 mana and exile this from your hand face down. And you can cast it later for its Foretell cost, which is just 1 generic and 1 green. So this is something we can play on our early turns. On turn 2, we can pay the 2 mana and exile this and cast it later. Okay, and then our big bombs in the deck are we're running 2 copies of Thorn of the Black Rose, 4 mana for a 1/3 with Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. So of course the Monarch draws an additional card at the end of each of their turns, but if your opponent deals combat damage to you, they become the Monarch. Then we also have Crimson Fleet Commodore, 4 mana for a 5/2 with Trample. When Crimson Fleet Commodore enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. And then we're also playing 2 copies of Gomag Angler, 7 mana for a 5/5 with Delve, and 2 copies of Hooting Mandrills, 6 mana for a 4/4 Trample Delve. Okay, and I'll quickly go over the current sideboard. We have 2 more copies of Snuff Out. Then we have a set of Fairy Macabre as Graveyard Hate. So it's 3 mana for a 2/2 with Flying. But it also says discard Fairy Macabre, exile up to 2 target cards in graveyards. I found this to be pretty cool. I'm quite a fan of this card in general. It's so nice to use this effect against Rakdos Goblins combo when they're in the middle of their combo. Very satisfying. So against Boggles and enchantment type decks, we have this card, which is also pretty interesting. It's the Sorcery Reverent Silence. It's 4 mana. It says destroy all enchantments. But it says if you control a forest, you may have each other player gain 6 life instead of paying the spell's mana cost. So again, it's a spell that its converted mana cost is 4, but we can cast it for 0 sometimes if we need to. And then finally, for a bit of artifact hate, we have Ingot Chewer, 5 mana for a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact, and it has Evoke for 1 red. Right, and then we're just running 24 lands with a bunch of dual lands, but you could build that as you wish. Right, so this is a very rough draft of a deck. It definitely needs a lot of work, but I thought I would just show the shell to hopefully get some ideas going in your head, and maybe you can think of ways to improve it. But I have had a lot of fun with this deck, and it has been quite competitive against some meta decks so far. So I do think there is potential here. I mean, maybe this Cascade package of Demonic Dread, Violent Outburst into Arcane Denial, maybe this package could be fitted into the mid-range Jund Wildfires decks that you do see in the meta. Maybe that would be quite decent. Definitely quite a spicy, interesting one, which I've had a lot of fun with. As always, let me know how you would tweak the deck, or if you have ideas for lists that I should try out. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.